Hi everyone, happy Monday. Hope you had a great weekend. I'm actually feeling a little bit pressured here. I came in a bit late. Sorry about that. I hope you haven't been waiting too long. I hope you're staying warm wherever you are. I've been following some of the weather on the news. I thought it was bad here. We had minus 35 Celsius this week when I got up in the morning, and I thought that was bad, but there's Fort Saskatchewan, which is a little to the east of where I live, was getting minus 45, which is, it doesn't matter if that's Celsius or Fahrenheit, it's still damn cold. So if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, I hope you're staying warm. If you're in the Southern Hemisphere, and I know there's a few of you sitting in Australia, hi, I hope you're staying cool, because February is the hottest month in Australia. I remember, because it's my birthday month, I remember that February is usually the hottest month, and my birthday in particular has been the hottest day of the year for quite a few years when I was growing up. So I hope you're staying cool. You should be getting into the hotter weather now. And of course, Queensland, if you're in Queensland, I hope you're doing okay with the floods there. I know they're inland, but it does look awful what I can see online. So I hope you're all safe and well there too. Anyway, hello, Audrey. Hi, and Moira, hello. Welcome. So just some little bits and pieces that I've been collecting over the week. This day in history. So today is the 11th of February. 485 years ago, in 1534, King Henry VIII of England was recognized as the head of the Church of England, which is probably the most expensive and long drawn out divorce process you've ever seen. He actually invented the Church of England just so he could divorce Anne Boleyn, because the Roman Catholic Church wouldn't give him the divorce. So he invented a church. As he was king, I guess he could get away with it. And once he was head of the church, he managed to push the divorce through with Anne Boleyn. So yes, a very expensive divorce proceeding. And in 1938, this one's a really interesting one. The BBC television produced the world's ever play, science fiction play, based on a book, actually a short story, from Carol Kopek. He created a play called RUR, the initials RUR, and he was the first person ever to use the word robot to describe a mechanical person. And it was coined that the name robot stuck. So, and that was in 1938, that went to air, and we've been calling them robots ever since. Although now these days, Android is a bit cooler. But yes, they were called robots, and it was a made-up name. Anyway, who else have we got here? Pat, hello, hi. This is your first time here. Yeah, it can be fun at times. Hang in there. Kathy, hi, and Sandy, hello. Glad to see you all here. Anyway, mailbag and comments. I've got a couple of interesting ones that I got during the week. I probably should start off with, I got a bunch of emails from people who were responding to last week's live broadcast, where I was saying, do we swap to once every 2 weeks, or do we stay with 1 week? And the overwhelming response by email, interestingly enough, was no, let's keep it at 1 week. People get into the habit of watching the replay, and if they've got to remember that it's every second week, they preferred it to stay in touch every week. So I will be doing this every week. That doesn't mean that you should feel obliged to turn up for the live broadcast every single week. It's supposed to be fun for you guys. So I will take the pressure off you guys a little bit. I won't wait for anyone to turn up. And if everyone can't make it for some reason, then I'll still do a broadcast because I'll have something to talk about. I'll try and talk about something interesting every week. So I will do the broadcast anyway, and you can always catch up with the replay afterwards when it's done. So it doesn't get pulled down from Facebook at any time. I also put a copy up on YouTube, so you can watch it there as well. Anyway, so that was actually this. I thought for sure that we were going to go to every 2 weeks because that's what everyone seemed to be saying in comments. But it appears, and I had forgotten, of course, it appears that a lot more people watch the replays than come to the live. So that was the conclusion there. I also got another email from Donna, who was like, I've just finished reading Forbidden and loved it. What other books have you and Julie co-written? If you're not certain who Julie is, Forbidden was the book that Julia Templeton and I co-wrote, and then we co-wrote Dangerous Beauty, which was the sequel. And then after that, we kind of parted ways. We never wrote another book together. Not because we didn't like each other or we had a falling out or anything like that. We're still very good friends. We keep in contact with each other on email and stuff like that. But Julie doesn't write anymore, not actively. She swapped over to young adult for a while, and I think she puts out the occasional short title in young adult. But she has a completely different business now. She sort of got out of the writing industry. It can be a bit wearing on the nerves being in publishing. So she's off doing something else. But after we finished writing the first 2 books of the series, we had a discussion, and I said that would she give me the full access to the series, which she did. She was very kind and said, yes, go ahead if you want to finish the series, which I did. I ended up writing Perilous Princess, which was book number 3 in the Scandalous Sirens series. And then about a year and a half later, I started Scandalous Scions, which is the next generation of people in that series. So it was a spin-off series, which I'm pretty sure everyone here is familiar with Scandalous Scions. So for Donna, there's your explanation. I did also tell her this in email, but there's the explanation for further books for Julie and I. Julie does still keep her website running. If you look for J.A. Templeton, because she changed her name from Julie Templeton to J.A. Templeton when she swapped over to the young adult. So you can find her under jatempleton.com, and you can find all of her books there. And I had one other email from a lady called Crystal. I'm so sorry, that sounded awful. A lady called Crystal who said, reviewing on Amazon is a crock. No one can review a book on Amazon unless they buy $50 or more of stuff on Amazon. I feel for you and the other authors because I can't review on Amazon at all. And I did respond to Crystal directly, but I thought it was probably worth repeating the email and giving my answer that I gave to her to you guys, because there is, and I'll get to that in a minute, there's Amazon are going through another review thing. So you don't always have to review on Amazon. It's an issue for anyone who doesn't actually buy books on Amazon, because Amazon want you to have spent at least $50 on Amazon before you can leave a review. And the reason they're doing that is because they're trying to cut down on all the review scams that are going on. You can bump a book up because reviews have such an impact on a book's sales. Some authors have been known to buy reviews, and they get review farms to do fake reviews and all that sort of stuff. So one of the processes of verification for Amazon is, have you spent $50 on Amazon, or is this a fake account? And that's why you can't leave a review on Amazon unless you've spent $50, because then they know that you're a real person and you're actually buying books. But the thing is if you don't buy your books from Amazon, you're going to have troubles leaving reviews there. That's why I usually say to anyone who asks about this, leave a review where you buy your books. So if that's Kobo or Barnes & Noble or Google or wherever it is, leave your review there. This also applies to the Amazon.Australia and UK and Germany and Berlin and so on and so forth, all the different country sites for Amazon. If that's where you buy your books, leave your reviews there. That makes you a verified buyer. Amazon's happy with you if you're leaving it on Amazon, and you're still sharing your appreciation for the author by leaving your review. The reviews are the sweetest way of saying thank you to an author for a really good book. So you can leave your review anywhere. And for me in particular, if you can't leave your review on a book site, and there are a handful of people, readers, who can't leave their reviews on a book site for a number of reasons. But if you can't, there's always Goodreads, there's always BookBub, and there's always my site. I've set up my site so that you can leave reviews just like you do on Amazon. So you've always got that option too. And here's something else to think about. Amazon is probably not the supreme leader in sales anymore. There's been a shift in the last few months, and going back about 6 or 8 months or so. And some of the other booksellers are starting to get up there as far as sales are concerned. So having the review on Amazon is not as critical as it would have been this time even last year. But certainly this time 5 years ago, when Amazon was the only place to get ebooks, then reviews were critical to have on Amazon. Now it's not even close to that. And finally, here's something to think about too. Heartfelt reviews, no matter where they're left, are appreciated. I'm sure every author will agree with me when I say that. If you leave a review for the author, even though we can't engage directly, even though we can't comment, it's not considered politically correct to have any reaction in public to a review. Even though we don't say anything, we appreciate every single review. So if you can't leave a review on one place, there's always somewhere else that you can leave the review. Anyway, let me just check comments here. Okay, Pat, these historical notes are exactly why I enjoy your writing, random but still interesting. Yeah, I'm afraid my curiosity bump, I like bits and pieces like that, Pat. So Heather, hi, hope you're well. Hello, Heather. Audrey, your talks are always interesting. Love the historical tidbits. Okay, more historical tidbits. Okay, good. That's good. I like that stuff too. Heather, it was a great book. Read it ages ago. Oh, Forbidden. Okay, cool. Good. Yes, it's pretty old. And I'm not sure what stinks, Heather, but reviews, I presume. So Moira, it does. Yes. Audrey, it stinks, but it's better than a lot of fake reviews. Yes, that's correct, Audrey. Absolutely. Sandy, I read reviews with Goodreads. Yes, a lot of people, there are a lot of readers that hang out in Goodreads. And I buy and review with Kobo. I avoid Amazon. Sandy, you're not alone. There's a lot of people that either on principle or because they simply cannot, don't buy from Amazon. I've got a couple of people on my street team actually that can't leave reviews on Amazon, can't buy books from Amazon for one reason or another. So I have an arrangement with them to leave reviews on my site. I would prefer a review on a bookseller site first, but a review on my site works just as well in the end. And Moira, I have a Goodreads account now because of Amazon. Yes, yes. There are a lot of people that are finding alternatives. Heather, the Amazon business. Yes, I presume that's your reaction to my what does it stinks means. Yes, that's what I thought, the Amazon business. Okay, so just there's some industry news I wanted to tell you about. Was actually one of the reasons why I started talking about reviews in the first place, that and the email that I got from Crystal. But there has been another shift in Amazon review policies, and they sent out new terms and conditions for reviews to the authors. And they look exactly the same as the old ones. So I would say that, except for one point, which I'll get to in a second, but because they look the same as the old ones, I would say going forward, continue to use the qualifying statement, you know, that you're volunteering to review, that you got a copy. I've got the phrasing in the street team guide if you're a member of my street team. But one of the things that they did have, that there is a rumor going around, is that they're stripping reviews that have not been verified. In other words, if you didn't buy the book, they're not letting the review go through. Now, so far, that hasn't happened to me. None of my street team have come back to me and said my review got taken away because I didn't buy the book. So I'm not sure how reliable that rumor is, but I do know that a lot of the street team were having a lot of problems getting their reviews okayed and getting that confirmation email. And that's why, because Amazon has suddenly slowed down and they're looking at every single review at the moment. But if you do hear of reviews being taken away because you didn't buy the book, please let me know. It would be nice to have that confirmation. That becomes a particular problem for street teams. So if that does start happening, we may have to think of an alternative arrangement. But for now, it is still just a rumor. But the slowdown on confirmation of reviews is a real thing. I've had lots of street team members telling me they're still waiting after about 4 days. So just take a deep breath and relax, and it'll come through. I also got an email from Howard saying, I love reviewing the books I have read, but I've noticed some of my reviews disappear. I've tried both including the ARC line and totally ignoring it. Does not seem to matter, except for the cases where I've bought the book on Amazon. Heaven forfend that someone buy the book on Walmart or Target, off with their review. Which basically comes back to what I was saying. You don't sweat too much about getting an Amazon on review if that's not where you buy your books. If you buy your books from anywhere else, leave the reviews there. If you review for an author who's insisting upon Amazon, you may have to recuse yourself from their street team because Amazon are just cracking down on this stuff. Just something to keep in mind going forward. So, and yes, of course, always, I think, because I ask for everyone to put the disclaimer on their review, I think that's why I haven't had a lot of reviews disappearing so far. We'll see. And Kathy, they are slowing down approval even for other things too. It took 2 days to get an approval for an embroidery kit I reviewed that I had bought on Amazon. Yeah, there was a lot of fake reviews going through, not for books, but for other products. And I think that's what started the whole thing going, particularly for a lot of the Chinese products that they sell. So I think they've just gone through one of their periodic, let's roll up our sleeves and really nail this thing that they do every now and again. So at the moment, everything's down to a crawl. Okay, now I have, only one piece of news this week. Hunting the Cobra was officially released on Thursday, which is really great. I seem to have got some really great reviews, lots and lots of squealy ones, which is always nice. Over 20 reviews so far. I think it's actually higher than that now. I think it's about 24 I saw on Amazon.com when I was there a while ago. 4.9 star rating. It's also available in print on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. So Barnes & Noble have picked up the pace on bringing the print editions over, which I thought was interesting because the print editions are actually done through Amazon these days. I thought Barnes & Noble would never get their print copies put up, but they've got all the print copies up there now. So you can, if you buy from Barnes & Noble, you can get print copy there now too. And also, shameless self-promotion, don't forget that the pre-order price goes away on Saturday night, midnight my time. So make sure if you haven't got it yet that you get a copy now before the price goes up. It's only $2.99 American at the moment, it goes up to $4.99 American on Sunday. So, and Janita, hi Janita. Janita says, I have not had any taken down, but where I received the okay within 10 to 15 minutes, they are now saying 1 to 2 days. And it took about 6 hours before I got it this last time. Yes, correct, Janita. There's lots and lots of slowdown at the moment with the approvals. Heather, brilliant story. Okay, thank you. All right, so one of the things I wanted to talk about today in particular, spies, espionage. I've been doing a lot of research on this lately. Obviously, if you've just caught up with a copy of Hunting the Cobra, you'll probably guess why, but that's not all, and I'll get to that one in a minute. But here's some really interesting things that you may not have thought about if you just read spy thrillers, or if this is the first time you've read spy thrillers, or if you don't read them at all. Spies are a very peculiar profession. For a start, they're usually highly patriotic people, but it's an industry that runs on secrecy. So you never know who the spies are. You could be living next door to one and you would never know. Even after they're retired, they can't talk about it quite often. And usually they're very unassuming people. They don't look remarkable. They don't do remarkable things. They don't hit the news. They just go about quietly leading their lives, and they could be the most heroic person in the city and you wouldn't know. And then there are and that's the spies that just live in your country that are working on espionage and intelligence for the country that you're living in. That's one type of spy, and they're usually called intelligence officers rather than agents. The agents and the intelligence officers that work in foreign countries, they're the sexy ones. They're the ones that we all like to read about because, you know, they're constantly under pressure and they're in disguise, or they're hiding, or they're pretending to be diplomats. So that's where all the interesting drama and so forth happens in spy novels. And there's something that you probably haven't thought of is if a spy is in a foreign country and passing as a local, that becomes very, very interesting and hairy as hell, because it's not simply a matter of just knowing the language. They've got to know the language well enough that they don't have an accent, and that is very, very difficult. I'm sure you know plenty of people who have been living in your country for 20 years and still have an accent. Look at mine. I mean, I still sound semi-Australian, and I've been here for 23 years. So finding people that know a language well enough to not have an accent, or to be able to get rid of their accent and speak flawless, idiomatic, whatever the local language is, that's a pretty rare skill just there on its own. But it gets even more complicated. Here's something to think about. There's a movie came out a few years ago called Inglourious Bastards. I don't know if you saw it or not, but it was all about, there was a lot of spies running around in Germany, and English and American spies and things like that. One of the spies, they were sitting in a bar, he spoke perfect German, he blended in, he was great, except he ordered 3 drinks, and they immediately knew that he was a spy. Do you want to know why? Because in Germany, if you want to order 3 drinks, you say 3 drinks. And that's what gave him away, was just that. And he ended up dead by the end of the scene. But that was literally all that gave him away. Otherwise, he would have passed, no problems. And it's probably not too much of a spoiler, but in Hunting the Cobra, somebody got caught as being not supposed to be not who they said they were, because they were using their knife and fork the wrong way. Germany, they use their knife and fork so that the knife is in this hand, the fork's in this hand, and they use both at the same time. In certain parts of America, I'm not even sure how they do it, but they cut this way and then they swap their fork over and use their fork to lift the food in their right hand. And that's what blew her cover, was that she was using the knife and fork the wrong way. There's lots of little things like that that can trip you up. And here's another, for instance. World War II, they had, I think there was, at its height during the French resistance, there were about 1,200 spies in France spying on the Germans. Now, they all had to blend in and look like locals, which is, believe me, as I've pointed out, not as easy as it sounds. Not only do you have to have the language down pat and have all the like gestures and all the customs and culture, have that nailed too, but the other thing is clothing, particularly in World War II. These days, the hoodie that you buy in Massachusetts is probably the same hoodie that you buy in Perth, Western Australia, because everyone buys them from China or something similar to that. The global trading and global commerce means that what we wear has become very, very homogenized. So the jeans that people are wearing in China are the same as the jeans that people are wearing in Britain. But during World War II, the differences in clothing from country to country, or even from county to county, were so different that you could pick up if someone was a foreigner from another county. And there were things like brand labels and branding, or how the seam was stitched, or if it had pockets, or the material it was made of, the color it was made of. There was the buckles that got used, the lacing. There were so many things that could trip them up. They ended up in England during the Second World War. There was this entire cottage industry devoted to making French clothing, French-looking clothing that would pass close inspection. And they started off, they would buy clothes from the French and people who were coming across the channel. But then they started running out of those sort of clothes, so they had to start making them themselves. There's a movie out there, Charlotte Gray, starring Cate Blanchett. It's quite old. I think it's 10 or 12 years old now. But she is literally a Scottish woman who parachutes into France during the war and spies on the Germans. And it was very interesting that they went through an itemized list of things that they were putting in her suitcase for when she landed in France. One of the things that they did was they swapped out her menstrual pads for the French version. And I mean, it's probably not something that you would think about generally, but they were that specific about making sure that their spies could get in there and blend and not get picked up because of something stupid like this. So, and the reason that I'm telling you all this, of course, I'm researching another spy series. This one is going to be a historical version. Now, I'm not talking about, this is not going to be next month or anything like that, because I'm doing a lot of the background research, which takes a lot of time, a lot of book reading and things like that. So it would probably be towards the end of the year, maybe into early next year before the first book comes out. But I'm starting to do all the early research now. And one of the period that I'm actually looking at is set just prior to World War I. So we're talking about just before the First World War, was when they had all those glorious dresses and things like that. They'd come out of the Victorian period and they were into, I've gone blank on the name. I'll think of that in a minute when it no longer counts, or else somebody can tell me. But one of espionage just before the First World War was just starting as a profession. They were just starting to get professional about it and learn rules and how to survive and how it worked and things like that. I mean, there's been spies around forever, but to actually have a spy agency that trained people and sent them out there this was a new thing. And it was primarily because of the threat of the Germans, who were trying to colonize everywhere. So everyone started around just before the First World War, everyone started building their own spy agencies. And they were still making lots of mistakes, and they were still learning how to figuring out how to do it. So you can imagine there should be some fairly interesting stories come out of that time, quite apart from the costumes. They used women right from the get-go. The spy industry, the intelligence industry, the intelligence arena has never been hesitant in using women, because quite often they're overlooked or dismissed, and people tend to look for the guy first. And women can blend in very easily. And one of the greatest spies during the First World War, I'm sure you've heard this name, Mata Hari. She was this exotic Egyptian dancer who was actually a German spy. They finally tracked her down towards the end of World War I and found out that she was a German spy, and she was executed. But she got some very damaging information out of some of the upper class leaders of England before they caught up with her. So anyway, that's why I've been researching all this stuff, which I find is really interesting. And look for that one somewhere way down the track. Okay, let's have a look at comments. Beth, hello, hi. Moira, that movie was great. Okay. Sandy, I'm a trivia nut. I love your research tidbits. You're welcome. So do I. Edwardian, thank you, Sandy. I went blank. I'm thinking Albert. And of course it was Albert Edwards, so he became King Edward. Edwardian age, yes. And there's a movie, if you're not too sure what age we're talking about, there is a movie out there called, I can't blank again. I guess it's one of those days. There's a lot of, look for Edwardian movies. There's quite a few of them out there. And the costumes are just gorgeous. They're divine. And of course, the classic one, I should have thought of this earlier, Titanic. The Titanic was at just before World War I. It's exactly the period that I'm researching, except I'll have spies in my story. So, Mary, hi. Pat, how do you find time for all this research and write? Do you have any assistance? The details included in your writing is impressive. Well, thank you. No, I don't have an assistant. Well, technically, I don't have an assistant. I do all the writing, I do all the research, but my husband Mark does a lot of the marketing, so the paid advertising and stuff like that. He takes care of that. We do a lot of brainstorming about business stuff together. But no, I don't actually have an assistant of any kind, not a paid one. I do it all by myself, but I also don't have much of another life. I sit at my desk a lot and I read a lot of books a lot. So actually, that's something that we did yesterday. Because it was so cold here, we grabbed an armload of books, put them all on the coffee table, put our feet up on the coffee table, got lots of coffee. We just sat there all day and sort of went through books and were reading them and commenting on them and discussing structure and things like that. It was a very nice day in front of the fire. So, okay, so that's about it for today, unless anyone's got any comments or questions. In the meantime, if you haven't had a chance to check out Hunting the Cobra yet, please do. You can go to my website. There's a link on this page. Have a look on the left. There will be a link to my site. If you scroll down to the bottom, there is Hunting the Cobra is on the right-hand side, right down the bottom. There's a live link there that will take you straight to the book. So check that out this week. And let me just have a look. Pat Heaven. I'm not sure what that means, Pat. Sorry. Mary, love your necklace. Lord of the... Yes, and a gift from a family member. So I'm kind of... It's cute. I never thought I'd wear something quite so commercial, but there you go. I love this necklace. So, all right. Meantime, if you've got any questions or comments that I don't catch up with, of course, you can email me, Tracy at tracycooperposey.com. I may read it out next week and give everyone an answer as well, if it's a question that I think a lot of people have got in mind. You never know. So until next week, I will see you later. Thanks for turning up, everyone. Bye.